Welcome back to the Meta Life channel. You are listening to Social Situation Slapdown. This week we're on the Kelvin Grove picnic area arena and our two participants. On the left, Tate Donahue, and on the right we have our reigning champion, Kristina Vonderheit. These two are well versed in conversations with each other, but today we see who can come out on top. Tate is starting as the underdog today, and Kristina is hoping for a great start out the gates. It looks like the competitors are warming up their mouths now. We'll be right back for the start of Social Situation Slapdown after this commercial.
Are you tired of chasing perfection like it's the last bus of the night? Well then, hop off that exhausting ride and dive into the pages of When the Bookshelf is Mocking You, the poetry book that's as easy to pick up as Your Grandma's Calls, but way more fun to listen to. When the Bookshelf is Mocking You is a roller coaster of emotions, where caution is thrown to the wind and words on the page like they're going out of style. Are you ready to embrace the perfectly imperfect world of joyous and authentic art? It's the book that says, hey, it's okay to colour outside the lines. In fact, it's downright beautiful. When the Bookshelf is Mocking You, the poetry book that's like your best friend, always there to make you laugh, cry, and maybe even snort a little when no one's around. The link to buy Kristina's book, When the Bookshelf is Mocking You, is down in the show notes. Not only do you support us on MetaLife, you help out an amazing friend of mine and an author who the world deserves to hear. You don't already have a copy? That's probably why your bookshelf is mocking you.
Welcome back to Social Situation Slapdown. Kristina versus Tate. Let the games begin.
There's artists who basically only make vagina sculptures.
Oh, ambitious topic start for Kristina.
It brings them joy, I don't know.
Nervous laugh there coming out from Tate.
My sister wanted to buy some for her practice and to hang them up because, she's a couples counselor and also sexuality and all that.
Could Kristina be bringing this back? Could she take it back to a normal conversation topic?
Genitalia of random people, I don't know.
Inspiring.
It can look very artistic,
Now this is a great play from Kristina, turning a normally taboo topic into a form of art. Art is a very subjective field, and so many people can relate, even on the weirdest of things.
If it's just white and you have it hanging at the wall, and it could also be some art sculpture, because depending on how it looks like, you don't necessarily know right away that it is a vagina.
Yeah. It's not looking good for Kristina.
But with penises, it's a little bit different. It would have to be very artistic, so you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know how she's done this twice in one conversation. Let's see how Tate responds, and if this conversation will keep going.
So, yeah.
No, yeah, the fully white ones could look really nice.
Tate has just made the play of the century. He's continued the conversation, he's related on the topic, and Kristina is just held in the gates.
Yeah, and then have different genitalia on your wall.
Nervous laugh there coming out from Tate, but I think Kristina might have won this battle once again. I think what we can gain from this match is that the conversation will go on. They will, in fact, have a whole podcast episode to keep talking. We'll be right back after this word from our other sponsors, so stay tuned on the MetaLife channel.
Step into another realm with Joe Mallory, an artist and musician who paints the unseen and plays the unheard. His acrylic masterpieces disguise faces in a universal facade, each a story of our shared consciousness. Each piece is a journey, each note a connection, and together they form a masterpiece of interconnected existence. You too can own a piece of his metaphysical tapestry. Listen to his eye-opening music and let your space resonate with the echoes of our collective consciousness. Discover and browse his universe at Joe Mallory Art on Instagram. His details and links are down in the show notes, and guess what? You're already hearing and appreciating his beautiful vibrations with this song, Defying the Laws of Gravity. Embrace the intangible with Joe Mallory. It's an experience that transcends from an artist of the metaphysical. At Joe Mallory Art.
Welcome back to the Meta Life podcast. I hope you enjoyed that intro. It was so fun to record. I'm in the back of my car, my recording studio for the moment, and you wouldn't believe how good it is. It was just raining, which I had no protection from, but apart from that, it is a completely soundproof studio. It's comfortable in the back with my seats down, and I'm loving it. That match of social situation slapdown that you just heard was very fun both to record and in person. Kristina was so fun to interview, and not a single moment was I actually awkward laughing. It was all just in awe of the amazing topics that she allows herself to speak about. So thank you so much for joining us again this week. Kristina Part 2. This episode will be all about her book, When the Bookshelf is Mocking You. It's available on Amazon, you just heard the commercial. But this week we're going to be focusing on the process she went through to make it, the very interesting struggles that she had to face, some to do with AI, some to do with just her being a very free soul. But her story is amazing, and it's more than just, I wrote the book and then I got someone to publish it. As you know, she's a self-published author, so she's amazing in a lot of ways, but this is going to show you how much she actually had to go through to get there. I hope you all enjoyed the intro. I think I'm going to keep doing those. They're so fun. Not that exact one, but just creative intros like this one and the last phone call episode. They really do just light up my night when I get to record them, and I think they're a lot more interesting than just a bit of music coming in. So thank you for tuning in again. If you haven't already, go follow us on Instagram, and enjoy for now, Kristina von der Heid.
So, yeah, creating art from joy is different, but it's I don't know. I guess it's just like trying it out and practicing.
Last episode, we ended off with Kristina talking about joy and how you should be creating art out of joy instead of just trauma. This is something that I've struggled with a lot, and I found that when I was in my lowest of lows in my depression, that I would start becoming really creative. But after she told me that, I've been focusing on trying to influence my art through joy, and that's where that intro came from. I wanted to push myself, try something new, and just make something completely out of fun. One of my best memories of being in school was watching sports compilations with my friends and the funny commentating moments, so that definitely does come from good memories. And Kristina has so many more things to say about creating authentic and true to yourself art, so enjoy.
I mean, you could do stuff. I've done that with like a lot of friends who say they're not creative because I'm like, yes, you are. You're just judging yourself too much, which is also something I talk in the book about because I feel like too many people judge themselves too much, and that's why they don't create art. Or they have this thing in mind, they want to create something to make money with, which is a huge block for myself. I also wrote poems about that, because every time I think of the end goal of making money with it, or it needs to be good, or entertaining people, my creativity completely dries up. But if I just focus on having fun and being creative without any outcome in mind, then I actually do my best work. Because then the intention is to be in the present moment and just have fun with it. And first of all, it's more joyful. Second of all, I'm more productive that way, because then, yeah, if I just have fun like a little kid, like playing, awesome. I could do that for hours. And then you can still, if you want to later on, judge yourself and like the same way with the podcast, and just edit stuff out that's not necessary and go over it if you want to. But yeah, I think that's kind of like how you can learn to create when you're happy.
And so, what better is a teacher than a role model? I asked Kristina what mindset she was in while she was writing the book, her poetry book, which could easily have been influenced from dark times and trauma, but she said this. And so what mindset were you in when you were writing the book? Was some of it dealing, or was it all just joy?
So my intention at that moment, I mean, like, I had written other books that were also like in the process of being like talking to publishers and stuff. So I wrote a self-help book before that in German, and I was talking to a publisher, and the publisher was like, "Oh, it's great, it's wonderful, but can you add some more?" And for 2 years I tried to add some more, but I didn't know what they actually wanted, because for me it was finished. And I didn't know what, like, I was really struggling with that, and my brain also wouldn't give me anything to add. And then I was like, but I still wanted to get something out there. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I have all this poetry. I should just do a poetry book just for fun, get it out there, get over this whole publishing thing. Then I can say I'm a published author, and I actually can call myself an author. And then maybe that gets the whole thing rolling. And then, yeah, and then I don't know, it happened steps on the way. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a poetry book. And then I wrote a lot of poetry. I mean, like, I had written poetry before in German, but you can't translate poetry. And I wanted to create something international that I can travel around the world with, and kind of like use as an excuse to travel. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a book in English. I'm gonna do poetry because that's easy, and I can do that within a short amount of time. And
it's effortless.
Yes, exactly. Because the self-help book was not effortless. There was like a lot of studies I was reading into, a lot of frustration about that, and also I realized when I was finished that it was not really authentic, because yes, there's great tips in there, but not all of them actually worked for me. And I thought, like, well, I had that later after I was finished with it, and I was like, I actually would like to write something in my own voice that doesn't sound like an accumulation of all the books I've read and all the people I talk to and all the podcasts I listen. Because the self-help book is kind of like, seems like that, like a summation of all of that.
Now, this is a really deep topic, because if you think about it, who we are is a combination of everything we've ever experienced, all the stimuli we've taken in. And so, really, to create anything, it isn't 100% your thoughts, because that would be impossible. However, I have noticed myself taking more influence than I should from other things, and Kristina saying this really did open my eyes as well. So, with a poem I wrote just after we met, I tried to separate myself from all of the other poetry posts that I'd been seeing, and not copy the topic, the format, the mood, and it's quite hard, but that is where real authenticity comes from, and it's where you can really unleash your creativity.
And I was like, you know what? I think poetry is the best way, because I, first of all, don't really read much poetry, because I'm super easy influenced. So if I would have read a lot of other poems from other poets, I think I would have been like, oh, this is cool, I want to do that, and then not be by myself, or be myself. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write poetry, because I don't really yeah, read too much of it. I'm not too influenced. Also, I'm gonna write it in English so I can, make an international book out of it. And then also, um, I'm gonna write like with this effortless theory. I'm gonna do something every day for a while, and the reason I did that is also because like when I wrote German poetry, I realized that in my poetry I also kind of like put my knowledge in there, but in my complete unique form, because it completely is like it flows through me completely uniquely to me, and it's my voice, and it feels more authentic than the self-help book in completion. Like even though there is my personal story in there and all of that, but it just doesn't feel as authentic as this thing, because this thing feels like the core, flowing out in poetry.
Gosh, Kristina, if you're listening, thank you so much for saying that. It has changed the way I look at my poetry. And when I did ask her how she just kept coming up with all these poems, even though she didn't actually have any influence or inspiration, it was really interesting and really cool the way she did it.
I started writing poetry, and I think I did that. I challenged myself to do like a 1 month challenge in the beginning to write poems every day. And then I think at the end, some days I wrote more poems, some days I didn't write any poems.
Was it just whatever came to your mind?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had like different strategies of how I would write poetry. So I would, for example, write random words on pieces of paper, put them in a bowl, mix them up, and then randomly pull words, put them together as a title, and then write whatever came to mind. So for example, there's a few poems in there like Pregnancy Roulette, because I just liked that title. I thought it was just a funny title. It's the same thing like I would also of course reshuffle a lot of times, because sometimes I would like get two words or like a title that just didn't spark anything in my brain, and then I would have had to actively think, which I of course avoided. So I would only do, like I would have titles, and if the title completely gave me the whole story right away, like on a TV screen in my head, it would be like, here's your poem, then I would use it.
Yeah.
Like an AI that just like creates stuff and kind of be like, yes, this came easy, okay, I'm gonna write it down. So that's kind of how how most of it happened. Actually, all of it, pretty much, because, and then it's still my stuff, like it's still flowing through me with my personal note. But yeah, basically, I just picked random words and then shuffled stuff, and when it sparked a story or a story came into my mind, then I would write it down, or a poem, or however you want to call it. And then I was already very happy with it, and I got a publisher.
Kristina, being purely Kristina, she wanted to bestow even more of herself into the book and the way that she lives her life. This is an awesome... Kristina, being purely Kristina, wanted to bestow more of herself into the book, so she did a few interesting things. I really admire what she did, and the amount of aspects and effort that went into this book is so cool, because it's all these unrelated facets of art all combined into one, and it just provides so much more depth to each poem, and it makes the book four-dimensional rather than just reading, putting it down whenever.
Originally I had like, while at the same time when I did the poems, I also created like colorful mandalas that were super stunning and that I could look at forever, because they like suck you in. They're like so beautiful, and they're so, I don't know, it's a nice meditative art to create them as well. So I created about 100 of those mandalas in the same time, and I was like, oh yeah, I would love to pair them, like the mandalas I've created while I created the poems, like pair them, so have like something that like they have the poetry and then they can look at this beautiful mandala. But the publisher at that time said like, yeah, sorry, if I want to print something with color, then the format has to be different, and the format would have been like a really huge like a coffee table book, really huge, really heavy, and extremely high production cost. And I was like, yeah, no, that's completely missing the point, because I wanted to create a book that people can read on the toilet, can read on the plane, can grab on the way somewhere, read on the bus. That you don't need too much time. You can actually stop a lot of times in between. You don't have to, remember where you were. You can just open a page and just randomly read something. Like some on-the-go entertainment, because I'm a traveler and I like those kind of books that you can just, I also read books that have, 1,000 pages and one continuous story, or self-help books, but not everyone does that, and a lot of people don't even read. So I thought, like, I wanted to create something that's easy on the go. And so the publisher told me, like, if I want to make a small format, I can only do black and white. And then I was like, okay, if I can only do black and white, then I'm going to do illustrations for it. And I think at that point, I had to hand over the finished manuscript with the illustrations within 4 days.
Isn't this a great time to notice that when you're under pressure, you push yourself so much further and you accomplish much greater things than you thought you could originally accomplish? I noticed this with myself this week. I'm trying to hit 100 listeners on the podcast, and I've given myself 2 weeks from a couple days ago, because that's when I start losing listeners towards that count. And I thought to myself, okay, I can do it instead of 2 weeks, I can do it in 1, just because I want to. And then I had the potential for a brand deal, and I said, okay, well, if I'm going to make this, I need to do it in 2 days. And then so I pushed myself to do it in 2 days. The brand deal fell through, but it taught me a good lesson, which is, if you want to do something, you will do it. And Kristina talks about this amazingly, but she also provides a really fun strategy of how to deal with this. You're going to hear it from her, but it's called the fast, bad, wrong method. And listen carefully, because I need to try this, you need to try this, the whole world needs to try this, because so much more kooky art could come out of this.
So I had 4 days to create illustrations for all of this. And that was very motivating. So I thought, I'm going to do the fast, bad, wrong method that I've heard about. Like, it's good for writing, it's good for art as well. And I was like, I'm going to do that strategy, and I'm going to time myself and give myself 5 minutes, because I calculated how, like, to have enough time to make all of the illustrations within 4 days, and also to have enough time to kind of like choose and edit and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I thought, like, okay, if I do 1 in 5 minutes, then that should be fine. So, okay, I was like, all right, I'm going to do a lot of doodles, like, and sketches within 5 minutes. And of course, not all of them actually took 5 minutes, because as soon as you say it's just 5 minutes, you start, and then it's getting good, and then you don't want to stop, so you do it a little bit longer, some of them. But especially the first ones, you can see that it was a 5-minute doodle. Right. So if you look at the very first one, very minimalistic. So I was like still on the spot, but even like the next one was already something that I was like, oh, this is fun, I actually want to do some more. And it took me more than 5 minutes, but overall I think still, like, most of them did not take me more than half an hour, I think.
Well, if it isn't my old friend, the 5-minute rule. I'm obsessed with this rule. I use it every single day because I wake up tired. I might have had caffeine the night before at 10:30 p.m. to record a podcast, and then the next day I need to do work, but I just can't because I'm tired beyond belief. I've had 8 hours of sleep, I just didn't have them in the right order. So I forced myself to get on the computer, do 5 minutes of engagement, and boom, I'm on there for an hour. The 5-minute rule is basically just do a little bit, and if you don't want to do it any longer, you can stop, and you've made a little bit of progress. But a lot of the time you'll keep going and you'll make a ton of progress. A friend of mine gave me another example of this, which was cutting a tree down. If the tree is massive and you can't cut it down all at once, just hit it 5 times a day. Sometimes you'll get into it and you'll hit it 10, 15 times in a day, and sometimes you'll just hit it that 5
but you've made progress, and eventually that tree will fall. And I think it's such a powerful tool to increase your productivity and kill procrastinating.
So, yeah, but basically for 4 days, for 16 hours a day, I would just draw. I would sit in a room in Spain and just draw illustrations after illustration after illustration. Some are better, some are worse. But like, as I said, like with the fast, bad, wrong method, it's more about like, what do I enjoy? And also, how can I make it as fast as I can, as bad as I can, as wrong as I can? Because if you do that, you're completely detached from what you create. You can have fun with it, and it can still be good. But if it's fast and bad and wrong, and you can still get it out there, then you can always improve upon it if you want to. But it's, it's like the same thing, like better done than perfect.
At first, re-listening to this, I was a bit confused because she's giving her art that she's created for herself to other people to then judge. But it's the part after that that she mentions. She says she can do it again if she wants to. She's not going to do it again if the public hates it. If she gets feedback and she agrees with it, then sure, she can do it again. But it isn't rooted in the opinions of the public. It's rooted in what she feels. And this is so important when you're creating, not to go along with what everyone else thinks and just do it again if you want to.
So I was kind of like going with that and being open, like basically being vulnerable enough to be shit. And that's kind of like the whole thing. Also with like the collection of poems, because people ask me if I have any structure to my poems or if I chose particular poems, and I did not.
I'm not going to interrupt Kristina for too long, but listen to this. It's the message of her book, and this is why I love this book so much.
I just randomly put them in there because that's also what I want to demonstrate in the book. I wrote it in the first pages that I want people to be open to be wrong and to make mistakes. So therefore, I just randomly put them in because why would I judge myself? Like, I don't know if, like, some poems that I might find boring, people might think are absolutely genius. So why would I judge myself? I can just put it out there and then let the public vote and judge and say what's good and what's not. And then I can do again if I want to.
I love
But
that.
so that's kind of like the whole intention behind it, is to not take yourself so seriously, not like take life too seriously. That's also why I put like smileys in there and QR codes, and that's why I also at the end, so I had the publisher, and then like 2 weeks when it was done, 2 weeks before publishing, they would not respond to my changes anymore because, for example, I wanted like smileys and I wanted like to do certain things, and they would not respond anymore. Also, I had like swear words in there, and and I got skeptical because I was like, okay, so either like what's going on, especially because it was so close to publishing date, and well, I don't want to publish something that I'm not happy with. And then they also would like send me back stuff that I was not happy with. And then they would not respond anymore. So I became suspicious and I started like researching them, which I should have done from the beginning to start with, but it was a recommendation from a friend and she actually did not know enough about them. She was just in a writing group with them. Either way, it turned out that there are like 8 lawsuits going against them. For stealing people's books and never paying them royalties and nothing.
Oh my God.
And then kind of like got a lawyer, got my book and my rights back and canceled the whole thing, which is still sad because I still kind of lost money on that because the whole process was so annoying.
Yeah.
But I got my book back, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to publish it myself because then I can do whatever I want as long as it is okay with the rules of Amazon, because I published it through Amazon now. So basically, I then had to recover for a while after the publishing disaster. I think for half a year I did not do anything. I was kind of just like trying to forget. And then I was and then in spring I got motivated again. I was like, all right, I want to get that done and over with so I can finally call myself an author, and so also like I can start like publishing all the other books. And so I finally went through the whole process, because then if you've done it once, you can replicate it a million times.
I love it. It's so right. The first time you do it is by far the hardest. I experienced this on my personal account the other day. I was
trying to start building my personal reputation and brand, and I'd never posted myself on social media, ever. Not really. And so I recorded a reel in my car. You can go over and see that. It was awkward as hell. You can see how absolutely weird I'm looking. I like blink really fast a couple times, and obviously this is all self-criticism. In reality, I know it wasn't too bad, but after that, I've been so excited to record myself, and it's just opened up that whole world. The first time is definitely the hardest for skills and for convincing yourself that something is actually amazing.
So I was like, okay. And then I got myself a freelancer on Fiverr to do the formatting and the stuff that I know how to do all of it because I've learned that in university and stuff, but I hate it. Making sure that the letters have the right space in between each other to look nice, and that the way the book is formatted is good for printers and all of that. I did not want to be bothered with it. And I looked for freelancers, and the first freelancer I had, I believe, was an AI, because it was like such a weird conversation, and it did not understand what I wanted, and it did not do what I wanted, and then also it just randomly, without asking me, published my book all over the world with a text that was basically like, if you go to ChatGPT and you ask it, write me a book description based on the title. That's how it looked like. And all the descriptions all over the internet were with that. That has nothing to do with the book. It was basically just like a made up story about the book title and book lovers, which has nothing to do with my book. And I was like, oh my fucking God. And I got really angry at that, because I was like, oh no, now my book is published all over the place with like a horrible description that has nothing to do with the book, and also in a version that looks like a child made it, because the AI did not do anything that I wanted. I luckily found out about all of it, got it all reversed. There's still some pages out there. I found like a page in Japan that still has like the old writing, but fuck it. People will find out that it's not what the book is about. But yeah, I basically got it back, and then I found a good freelancer who finally was a human. Yeah. 2 days before I wanted to publish it, as I told you, like I decided the publishing date on astrology and numerology, and based on a date that is financially auspicious. And so I had like 2 days left, and that's when I had the idea with the QR codes, because I'd never seen that before, and I was like, oh my God, this is a great idea. And I wanted to use it because I was like, okay, this is my first book. Like, why not use everything? And I still have like 2 days. I still have time. Why not use it? So I was like, technically I had like 2.5, because I had the idea, I don't know, Friday night, and I think Monday was the publishing day. So it was like, so at Friday night, I scripted 52 video ideas, and then the other 2 days I was also very lucky with the weather because I had sunshine. Yeah, basically recorded 52 videos in 2 days on her balcony in the time that the sun was still out enough to see something, because like in the evening, of course, I had to stop when it got too dark, so you can see basically the whole day how it is, like how the light is getting brighter and then how it's kind of like going down.
Is that like the order that the book's in as well?
Kind of, yeah, because I just did back to back to back.
Yeah.
And then, and in a time where I could not film the videos, I would edit the videos already done. And yeah, and then I basically paid a freelancer also to put the QR codes. Like I got the QR codes through like this website thing called Dub.
Just want to quickly mention that she didn't do this alone. You need people to help you out. Your work doesn't have to just be created by you. As much as you can put into something, you deserve all the recognition for that, but truly amazing things are made from teams of people.
Yeah, so he put all the QR codes in there, and then I was publishing on time, which was beautiful. Also, it helped me because if you don't have time, it's perfect because you have no time to overthink. You're basically scripting it, you're putting it out there, you don't have time to judge what you've said if it's, you don't overthink it. I'm just hoping that there's no cancel stuff in there, you know, like, I don't know, that made, but I think no one on Amazon, for example, is gonna watch all those videos and see if I said some stupid shit in there. And I might have. I can't even remember all the stuff I've said. Like, I can't even remember. No, not at all. Like, I scripted it, I put it out there, and I was like, all right, I'm done. Published. So it had, so might have said outrageous shit on it. I don't know. I can't remember. I just, got it out there. But I thought, like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, there's a lot of things that could happen, but...
My golly gosh. Kristina is an inspiration. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Meta Life. My media recommendation for this week is a small podcast and Instagram account called Second Opinion. It's run by a guy who basically just gives his second opinion on everything. We'll leave it there for this episode of Meta Life, but I've got 3 more episodes with Kristina that I'm going to be releasing quite quickly. On that note, go follow the Instagram, share the podcast, share the Instagram with people you know. We want to make a difference, and this is a movement. We want to change the world with the lessons and stories that all of our guests tell us, and we can't do that without you, the listeners. So thank you so much for being here. Love you all, and I will see you next week on the Meta Life Podcast.